what was your favorite part of making the album?
So this album's been really, really enjoyable to work on. Normally, I would write a whole album by myself. The whole process would be completed by myself from start to finish. The same with Mark. He's used to working on his own as well. So for us to create an album together like this has been really it's been like a fresh feeling to it all, and it's crazy to see how quickly these songs became songs, and it's nice that one person has inspired the other to write stuff that they might not have written otherwise. I'm very pleased with the way this album has turned out, and we've definitely been on the same page throughout the whole process as well. So it's been really enjoyable.
Well, I'd say my favorite part of making this record is probably the songwriting, to be quite honest with you. Like Joe, I've done a lot of my albums alone. Mainly because I prefer it that way, having made records for many years before with bands. I enjoyed that process too, don't get me wrong, but there's always, someone to wait for, or something that hasn't been done yet, or there's always somebody that you seem to be waiting for when there's somebody else involved. When you're doing things by yourself, you're by your own schedule. You have nobody to blame but yourself when you're doing your own writing and your own albums. So I've grown to love this sort of way of making records. When I discovered Joe and his albums that he had done on a radio show, I thought that this was a kindred spirit that I could contact and make a record with. And after contacting him, he did appear on my last Project Gemini album in the year 3073 Book 1. We got along really good. That gave me the confidence to contact him and ask about going forward with the Dark Monarchy, and he was all for it. And we got together. We came up with a plan of how to write the record. Basically, everybody would start writing a song. We would write about 3 minutes of the song from the beginning to a certain, point, like 3 minutes in, and then the other person would conclude it. It was a system that worked very well. After we had completed the first song, which was called The Surrogate Other, we knew this was going to work because the song turned out really well. I think better than both of us had anticipated. So, that was a great moment when we discovered that. So I think the songwriting was the part that I enjoyed the most, because every time we work on a new song, it just ended up being a lot better than any of us imagined that it would turn out to be. So I'd say the songwriting was the part that I liked the most.
Which part of the recording process did you enjoy the most?
As far as my parts on this album, recording the bass is always the most enjoyable part. I enjoy recording vocals as well. I enjoy that to a degree. It can get very intense in here. If I'm making a lot of mistakes and stuff, it can get a bit heavy, but it's enjoyable. But yeah, the bass is always the most enjoyable part of recording. I prefer the writing section. I always have done. Composition seems to be my strong point, as opposed to being a player. Although I enjoy playing the bass a lot, so it's something that I think shines through when I'm playing. I think you can hear the enjoyment in it. All in all, everything's been enjoyable, even down to programming symphony parts and choir parts and stuff. It's all been really, really good fun, and so pleased with the way this album has turned out.
I'd say as far as my favorite part for recording goes, I would probably say I enjoyed doing the guitars. Of course, I'm a guitarist first, but on this album, because there was an element of the songwriting that I didn't know, or I wasn't prepared for, because Joe would write a certain amount of the song. his writing is different than mine in a lot of ways. He would use different chords, different chord progressions that I would use, and it made me open up my playing a little bit more, especially in the solo side of stuff. I really enjoyed doing the guitar solos on this album because it made me really tap my inner Alex Lifeson, so to speak, on certain songs. And I really enjoyed doing that. It was something that I hadn't done in a very long time. So I'd say recording the guitars was probably one of my favorite things. And to be honest with you as well, even though I don't sing as much on this record as on my own, I really enjoyed doing the vocals that I did on this record. Joe was very good with writing parts that complemented each other. Joe really is the main brain behind the vocals on this record. I wrote a few things here and there, a couple verses and stuff like that, but he kind of had the vision of how to structure the stuff, and I just followed along because I really enjoy his vocal melody writing. So that was the other thing I enjoyed very much.
Talk a little bit about the songs. Which song did you have a strong feeling about early on?
So from the beginning of the project, once we'd sorted out what everyone was doing, I say everyone, what we were both doing, it was sort of, let's get going, let's start writing some stuff. So the first song that we completed together was a song called Surrogate Other, which was a song that Mark had started, and then I completed it, arranged it all to make a song out of it, and then I wrote the lyrics for it as well, and recorded the song, and it turned out great, and Mark thought the same. So it was really from that point that I knew we were onto something. Just how simple it was to construct such a good song, and how well it came together and how well it sounded. But I think one of my most exciting moments was receiving the beginning to what is now Mother Earth. It was also a song that Mark started. I think he sent about 3 minutes long. But as soon as I heard that piano and clean guitar section, I thought, oh, this is going to be an epic song, this. And so I wanted to make it an epic song because it deserved to be, and then it became that, and it's still now is still my favourite song on this album. It's definitely the best song we've done together. I think Mark thinks the same as well. So yeah, it's awesome.
I think all the songs are excellent. This is one of those records where I can honestly say that every song seemed to be better than the next one for some reason. I don't know if it was because as we were writing, we were picking up momentum and confidence as we were writing, but the songs just seemed to get better and better and better as we wrote them. Like Joe, my favorite song right now has to be Mother Earth. I think that it turned out so well. There's a good mix of keys and guitars, and the vocal melodies that Joe did are outstanding in that song. And the orchestration that he's done on not only this song, but throughout the whole album is top notch. I mean, that's one of the things I was extremely excited about when I started working with him, is him bringing in that element of the orchestrations and the choir parts that he would arrange and stuff like that. Just that he came from a totally different angle on that than I did. And to be honest, I never used any sort of real orchestrations on my song, so this was new, and it just gave it that sense of excitement for me, that, not knowing what to expect, and I was very excited about that. So I'd say that the song that I really had a good feeling about from the onset was Mother Earth, for sure.
Tell us about the lyrics. What were some of the topics you wrote about?
Lyrically, I tend to write about things that annoy me, get on my nerves. Tend to be things with a negative vibe. I don't know. I just think it's subjects like that are easy to write about. They're strong points for me to write about. I don't know. It's less cheesy writing things that are not happy. It's not all miserable, but I tend to gear towards that sort of vibe. Lyrically on this album, I touch upon different subjects, all of a similar vein. So, likes of Surrogate Other, that's about the tabloids, newspapers, and how they brainwash the public, how they create thoughts for people, how they think for other people, and people just let it happen. People are happy to let the papers think for them. So yeah, that song's about just how it generally annoys me that people can't think for themselves, and that they would, listen to the media, who are famously biased and famously corrupt. So yeah, Mother Earth, as I mentioned, is about the destruction of the planet generally by the people on it, but it's written in a sort of in the perspective of Earth. I thought it would be, a cool idea to write it from the point of view of Earth personified, and it worked really well. I had a couple of lines in my head, and I thought this would be great if this was excuse me. This would be great if this was Earth talking to the inhabitants of Earth, saying, look at what you're doing to me. So that was a really fun song to write about, actually. Normally, lyrically, I'm not a big fan of writing lyrics, so for this album, it has been really, really fun, actually. So we have Joyride, which is about gun crime. Me and Mark co-wrote that one. He wrote the verses, and then he sent the song over to me, and I wrote the rest. Broken Kingdom, which is about... it's based on Brexit, the whole farce that has been the UK leaving the European Union. Not just generally Brexit, though. It's just general stupidity in the world, but specifically in this country. Fool's Gold, which is the most recent one, is about people's reactions to the pandemic that's going on now with COVID-19, and how people won't do as what they're told. You've been told to stay inside, and yet they just can't help themselves, and they have to leave their houses. So it's about my annoyance for those people.
So the lyrics are something that Joe very much was in charge of overall. I did write some lyrics in here. I did write some verse parts for a couple of the songs, and overall, though, Joe had a definite message. Joyride, particularly, was the one that I had a hand in writing the verse parts in. Mainly writing about the whole gun situation, especially here in Canada, where the gun situation seemed to have been gotten out of control here. A lot of people were getting shot, and actually the ironic thing about that is that now with the COVID-19 thing, there hasn't been a single shooting incident for months now. So I'm not going to say that COVID-19 made something positive out of it, but it definitely stopped something that was getting out of control here in Canada, and I'm sure in other spots in the world, like in America and some places maybe in Europe as well. But the lyrics are very strong. Mother Earth is about the planet Earth, obviously written from the perspective of the planet. As Joe says, I think making it sound like he wrote it in the sense that the planet was actually telling its story of what was happening to it. Bed of Posers, fantastic lyrics as well. I think Joe really is the one that can clarify all these things very well.
You've made a lyric video for the first single, Bed of Posers. What was the message you were trying to convey in that video?
The lyric video for Bed of Posers I made myself. I am by no means a video editing genius. I just play around with it. I tried to include images that would make sense, with regards to what the song is talking about. They're all royalty-free stock images, so I just used what I could find that would fit with the subject. The video I was making was not really trying to tell a story. The lyrics were doing that for me, and obviously it's a lyric video, so you can read the lyrics along with the song. So that's where your story is, not really within the actual video itself, but it worked. And there's parts on that video that sort of do make sense with the lyrical topic.
So the music video that we did, the lyric video, turned out really well. The lyrical content, that being about poverty and homelessness, I think Joe did a fantastic job with the imagery that he used to kind of propel that in there. It almost looked, from when I first saw it, it almost looked like that scene at the beginning where people were walking by on the sidewalk. It almost looked like you were seeing through the eyes of a homeless man sitting on a street watching the world go past him. I'm not really sure if that's exactly what he wanted to kind of convey with that shot, but it definitely gave me that sort of vibe to it. So I really think it turned out really, really well, the video overall. I think that Joe has a talent for that just as much as he has a talent for writing lyrics and writing music. He has a good eye for video making, so I'm hoping that we'll do another one for maybe another song sometime very soon.
What do you think Mark's strength is as a writer?
I think Mark's main strength as a writer is his ability to listen to what he's being presented with. He's very clever. He's got a very clever ear. And I think it's a strength that the two of us have. I think the ability to listen to something and go, well, I know what I'm doing with that. And, working things out that the other person's playing, because, we wrote these songs, sent the WAV files to each other, but we never sent any notation or tablature or anything like that. It was sort of like working it out by ear, if that's what he's doing. So, his ability to listen would be, I think, his main strength as a writer. Also, he makes like really huge, chunky riffs as well, which are really, really cool and really fun to think of bass lines to go with.
What do you think Joe's strength is as a writer?
What are Joe's strengths as a writer? I think Joe's strength overall is his ability to work well with others. Now that's going to sound ironic because we don't work with others at all on our own stuff, but he has a real ease about him that I really enjoy. Nothing is difficult with him. Nothing seems like you have to pull teeth to get done. He's very on time with things. When he was saying that when he says that he's going to do something, he does it. Now this might sound sort of odd to say, but it is something that's not very common amongst musicians. Musicians can be very lazy. I know that for a fact. And I'll admit that there were times when I was lazy with stuff, but definitely not in this band, because everything seems to go so well on here. I think that his work ethic has rubbed off on me a bit too, that I've really made sure that I focused on stuff, got it done. When he had something for me, I put it in, we got the mix going, and it's just really, he's sort of contagious, let's put it that way, in a good way, that he makes everything exciting, fun. I really enjoy working with him. I'm hoping that we're going to do many more records together, because I really enjoy this whole system that we have. He's open to things. He's open to like trying different things when I ask him about, maybe putting in this or that, or, maybe put in some more orchestration. I mean, he has a good ear for what a song needs. Never once when I sent him a song did I ever think, oh boy, I wonder what he's going to do with this song. I always knew that once I gave him my part, he would end it and complete it, and it would sound great. When he would send me stuff, I was always instantly impressed with it right away, and it made me step up my game as far as what to add to it, so that it didn't seem out of place, or I didn't want it to be like, he had such a great 3 minutes of music. I didn't want my 3 minutes to suck. I'm so glad that we did these songs together because I think it's really improved both of our songwriting.
The album cover is very well done. Who made it, and what do you like about it the most?
So the artwork for this album and one of the singles so far was created by my best friend Steve Holland, who has done artwork for me in the past. He's done artwork for 3 of my previous albums, the 3 last ones. So there was Nightingale, A Price to Pay, and Less Than Nothing. He's got a good vision. He's very quick at making decisions with where he's going to go with something. So with regards to the Dark Monarchy, I told him, the basic ideas behind the lyrics. I think he's used to the way I write lyrics now. He's used to my subject matter. So I think within an hour of me telling him about the lyrics, he was like, I've got an idea. And the idea he had was pretty much where we are now. And he said, I need a female model and I need a cloak. So we ordered the cloak, and my sister Charlotte agreed to be our female model for this. And we had a good couple of days out taking shots for this. It was a lot of fun, actually. We had a good laugh. And the shots turned out brilliantly. And he's worked his magic on them, and I'm very, very pleased with the way they've turned out. It's gonna look ace on CD and in booklet form. It's gonna be awesome. So yeah, I'm forever grateful to him for the hard work he's put into this, and I'm sure everyone else will love the artwork too.
The album cover. The album cover and the artwork is all in Joe's hands. When we first decided to do this, one of the things that I wanted to make sure was that certain things we would give to each other to do so that the other wouldn't have to focus on it. And it really helped out a lot because in our own respective bands, we took care of everything pretty much and oversaw everything. But this time, having somebody to help out in those matters really helped. And assigning Joe to take care of the artwork was great. He got his friend, a good long-time friend, Steve, I believe his name is. Steve Holland, I believe it is. And he did a fantastic job. He's all photography based, which is different so far for all my Project Gemini stuff. I've always used James McCarthy, and he's very much of the painting end of things he does for his album covers. So having somebody who does actual live real photography is a whole different thing, and something that I really, really enjoy because, again, I didn't want this project to be just another thing that's closely tied to Project Gemini. I wanted it to be its own thing, to have its own life. And because of this artwork, I think it definitely does. The artwork looks great. I couldn't ask for anything more than what we got. I mean, it's fantastic. He did the album cover for this album, and he's also made a cover for the new single that's going to be coming out soon as well. So very much looking forward to letting everybody out there checking out the artwork.
What are your hopes for this album?
What do I hope for this album? Well, I'm hoping that people will enjoy it, first of all. I'm hoping that people who like some of my music will enjoy it as well. And most of all, I'm hoping that there'll be some new people who will come on board who maybe haven't heard either one of our music and come to like this, and maybe will end up liking all of our other music because of this. I'm just hoping that this will be one of these projects that will again have its own life and its own course, separate from Project Gemini, separate from Joe's solo stuff and his other bands that he's done. I think it's important that it does that because not only do I think that it could bring in different people into the audience that we have, because there's nothing wrong with having people that love our other projects love this. I think it's great if they love it as well. But I think it's always good to try to branch out and to expand one's audience. So I'm hoping that it does that. And I hope that the messages that Joe writes about connect with people. I really do hope it does that.
I hope that people will like this album. I know a lot of people will like this album. Already with the release of Better Poses, people reacted in a good way. There was positive comments coming from that. So I think, when they hear the whole album, they will not only be positive about it, but they'll get it more, I think. Because there's a lot going on. It's not all like Better Poses. Obviously, that's the beauty of the two of us working together, is that we, like I said earlier, we inspire each other to write things that we probably or possibly wouldn't have written otherwise. So I think people will get onto that when they hear the album. It's very obvious that there's two people with two different writing approaches, and yet at the same time it's very cohesive and it's seamless in a way that they are rock solid songs written really, really well. And I could not be happier with the way this has turned out. And obviously down the line then, the more we've written together, the more we've nailed it down to an art form. So when it comes to writing and recording our second album, I know that's a long way away yet, but it'll be even easier and quicker and probably better. But at the moment, this album is superb and I'm very pleased, and I thank each and every one of you in advance for your support, your future support, to Project Gemini supporters, to my supporters, and all people who are new to the fold. I'm sure you will enjoy this album very much, and thank you for watching.
You're trying to crack a smile. You're dying on a good day. Like the pet